sure how to feel about this one. The feuds are progressing nicely, or some of them are anyway. They've announced most of the Bound for Glory matches now, but there were quite a few things this week that made me facepalm like you wouldn't believe. Let's get right into this and I'll explain. The show starts with Hogan coming out, doing his usual shtick, posing, showboating for the crowd. Problem number one. Hogan doesn't seem bothered one bit by the fact that his friend Joseph Park was kidnapped by the Aces and Eights and bludgeoned into unconsciousness last week. In fact, all things considered, he seems remarkably carefree about the whole thing.
You're nothing but a selfish prick!
Hogan says that tonight is the night that he's going to confront the Aces and Eights at their clubhouse and try to get Joseph Park out of there before they do all manner of unspeakable shit to him. Problem number two. Joseph Park was kidnapped last week, and Hogan is just now doing something about it? You know, considering they tried to crack his skull open with a hammer and he probably needs medical attention, I would think that Hogan would want to take care of this as soon as possible instead of just shoving his thumb up his ass while Joseph Park is held prisoner by these fuckers for 7 days straight.
This whole show is ridiculous!
Then Sting comes out and says that he's got Hogan's back, which we already knew. And for some reason the announcers are blown away by this, even though Sting's only been off TV for a few weeks. Not really sure why. So they're both going to the clubhouse. I could have sworn the Aces and Eights told Hogan to come alone last week. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't really remember. But problem number three. If Hogan is allowed to bring backup, here's a crazy thought. Instead of just Sting, why not bring everyone? We've seen many times now that the Aces and Eights have a shit ton of members. Even if most of them are lackeys or henchmen or whatever, there's dozens of these assholes. So instead of meeting them 50-1 or 50-2, why not bring everyone you've got and meet them 50-50? You have quite a large talent roster at your disposal, Hogan. One that has already shown that they're willing to take it to the Aces and Eights when the need arises. But you don't bring any of them with you? Just Sting? That's it? Call me crazy, Hogan, but I think you're still going to be outgunned.
This is ridiculous, man, any way you look at it.
So after Hogan takes care of the Championship Thursday business, him and Sting are ready to leave for the clubhouse. And problem number four. Since the Aces and Eights never actually told Hogan where this place is, but he's getting ready to go there anyway, the only explanation is that he already knew where their clubhouse was and has thus far done nothing about it. And don't give me some dumb excuse like, but the Aces and Eights kidnapped them and brought them there. Horseshit. Hogan didn't know that would happen, but him and Sting were ready to go there on their own. How could they go to the clubhouse unless they knew where it was? Can you answer me that? Plot hole! Hogan and Sting are about to leave when suddenly Leva Bates shows up as like a PA or something, shoots pepper spray in their eyes, and they get abducted. Now that was interesting. Now, Leva did have a tryout match last year, but she works in Universal Studios. She's probably always on hand, so this doesn't necessarily mean anything. It might have just been a cameo and that's it. On the other hand, they could have used anyone for that, but they went out of their way to use an independent wrestler, so maybe they've got a role for her. And hey, that's cool. If they were considering signing her, I wouldn't complain. If they could do a lot worse. And I'd take Leva Bates in a second over Jillian Hall, who worked a dark match that night. Just enough of that woman. No need to sign her. But Leva Bates? Who knows? To be continued on that one. So Hogan and Sting are taken to the clubhouse and they have a conversation with the Aces and Eights. And the one doing all the talking, even though his voice was disguised, you could tell it was Bischoff. The speech pattern was a dead giveaway. Oh, God. What do I even say about this? Anyone but Jarrett or Bischoff. Anyone but Jarrett or Bischoff. Anyone but Jarrett or Bischoff. TNA, please don't go down this road. You want a spokesman for the Aces and Eights? Make it a wrestler who would benefit from the rub. Jarrett, Bischoff, they don't need to be on TV anymore. So now you're accusing Bischoff, huh? Wow. Is there no depth you won't sink to cast the blame for the Aces and Eights onto someone other than yourself? It'll never work. All the evidence points to you, and it's just a matter of time now. A lot of mixed feelings on this segment. I thought it was produced very nicely, especially compared to the borderline cartoonish way WWE does segments like this, like the Sheamus Otunga legal meeting from a few weeks ago. This is much better. But, long story short, they say that Hogan locking the doors to the Impact Zone threw a monkey wrench into their plans, basically admitting that the whole "you might have locked us in" thing was bullshit, and so a match is made for Bound for Glory. 2 of them versus 2 of Hogan's guys. If the Aces and Eights lose, they go away, or so they say. But if they win, Hogan gives them free access to the building. But the bitch of it is that they're not going to release Joseph Park until after this match takes place. And for some reason, Hogan agrees to this, even though strong hints are being dropped that Joseph is in fact being tortured by these people. Now, granted, we learned recently that Hogan has a pretty lenient stance on torture, but I'm sorry, that's just fucked up.
This whole show violates everything about my journalistic integrity.
Problem number 6. Instead of Hogan leaving Joseph Park in the clubhouse to rot and just trusting that the Aces and Eights will keep their word and release him after this match happens, now might be the time to get the authorities involved. The police, maybe the FBI, because the Aces and Eights need to all be arrested for, among other things, breaking and entering, kidnapping, assault and battery, and possibly attempted murder. In fact, to that point, why the hell didn't Hogan plan on bringing the police to the clubhouse with him in the first place? I think Joseph Park would have appreciated that.
I don't know what my future holds, but I know one thing.
Problem number 7. The match is stupid. It's 2 TNA guys versus 2 guys in masks. Did you really not learn your lesson here? A guy in a mask is not a compelling opponent. This didn't get over at No Surrender. Why are you doing it again, on your biggest show of the year, no less?
You people are fools!
Now, one thing I will give them. I absolutely loved the Aces and Eights telling Hogan that he could not be a part of this match. That this was not about him, that it was about him standing back and being forced to watch the results of his complete and utter managerial incompetence. Thank you. They don't want to see Hogan wrestling any more than I do. So that's one thing we've learned about the Aces and Eights this week. They may be sadistic evil fucks, but they're obviously smart marks. So they can't be all bad. Problem number 8. The stipulation of the match is stupid. If the heels win, Hogan unlocks the doors and gives them free access to the Impact Zone, which they already had for months until he locked the doors. So if they lose, they go away. But if they win, things just go back to the way they were before. Scintillating. And for that matter, why is the doors being locked even an issue for them in the first place when, as we've seen multiple times now, they have people on the inside helping them who could quite easily unlock the doors whenever they need?
I was a war correspondent, and now I'm covering this!
Oh my god. The inconsistencies are piling up faster than I can count them. I try to keep an open mind about angles like this, I really do, and I'll commend them for at least trying to think outside the box and try new things, but there are plot holes here so huge the entire Impact Zone could fit inside them. I don't know where the hell they're going with it, but after this segment, this Aces and Eights thing has jumped the shark, nuked the fridge, and any other metaphor you can come up with, it's done it.
You can take this microphone and shove it up your ass.
Alright, let's talk about something else. It's Championship Thursday, and since Devon is gone now, they're crowning a new TV champion. It seems to me that this whole process could have been easily avoided if they just had Devon drop the title before his contract expired, but what's done is done. So Hogan has chosen 4 contenders for this title shot. Samoa Joe, Magnus, Ken Anderson, and Garrett Bischoff. Holy shit, one of these things is not like the others.
Yet again, I am standing before another ignoramus.
Alright, first of all, how exactly were these people chosen? You know, Joe makes sense. Anderson hasn't been doing anything lately, but Hogan's a biased mark for the guy and everyone knows it. He's always going to get preferential treatment, so that was expected. But from there, logic takes a back seat. You know, Garrett Bischoff has barely appeared in months, and I don't think he's even competed in a televised match since Slammiversary. So him being considered for a title shot on general principles is idiotic. And second, how did Magnus get in there? Let me explain. I like that Magnus was in there. He belonged in there. He should be the next TV champion, in my opinion. But if you're going to put him in this spot, you have to explain how he got there. He's coming off of 3 big losses in a row to Bob Van Dam, and now he's in the running for a TV title shot, while Van Dam is nowhere to be seen. How does that work? I'm very glad that Magnus was in there instead of Van Dam, but the fact remains it doesn't make sense. Do you see now why it was such a huge mistake for Magnus to job to Van Dam at No Surrender, and in the 2 matches before that? I'm just saying. And the selection process was ridiculous too. Despite the losses to Van Dam, which I guess we're just ignoring now, Magnus manages to make the best case for himself. He's the most well-spoken, he makes the most convincing argument in my opinion, so naturally, Hogan eliminates him first, just because he doesn't like that him and Joe are arguing. Meanwhile, Garrett Bischoff can't sell himself for shit. He has no argument, he's just sitting there like a lump while the other 3 guys carry this whole thing. But he's still in the running?
Oh, what a bunch of bull.
Thank God sanity prevails and he gets eliminated next. And this part was kind of funny, actually. Hogan cuts him, and Garrett doesn't look disappointed. He doesn't look angry, or anything really. He stares blankly into space, and then he just leaves. You know, some people think that means he's turning heel, but if that's true, wouldn't him looking angry have been better than the same deer-in-the-headlights expression that he gave here and every other time we see him? Maybe he was supposed to look angry, but that was probably asking too much of him. It never ceases to amaze me how little charisma this Joker has. Every time we see him, he just looks completely lost out there in anything he does. And the sad thing is, Alex Silva and Sam Shaw may not be ready for TV yet, but they're both way better and more talented than Garrett, and yet they're in OVW, and he's on the main roster. Back to Explosion for you, Garrett. And please, just stay there this time.
This alleged superstar is an unworthy opponent.
The Gut Check judges gave their verdict on Evan Markopoulos. As usual, they had a backstage segment discussing his tryout. These are always really well done as they're kept very real and honest. And I pretty much agreed with their assessment. He showed potential, but there was a question of him being too young and not being ready for the pressure of the business, so they ended up voting no. And I think that was the right call. As I said last week, I'd like them to take another look at him in the future, maybe in a few years, but for right now, it was just too soon for him. That was pretty much it for storylines. For wrestling, we had a triple threat match with one half of each team in the tag title match next month. A good match, built some tension between the face teams, get some more heat on the heels. A solid segment, nothing earth-shattering, but nothing wrong with it either. I can't say the same about the women's match, though. I think it's kind of silly that Tara would have to win a #1 contenders match when her and Tessmacher are the only knockouts that have appeared on the show in the last few weeks. I don't see why that was necessary, but if it was a roadblock that Brooke Hogan put in front of her for roughing up Christy Hemme last week, I guess I can buy that. What I can't buy is putting ODB in the match too. Ha-ha! When you have an already established storyline that Brooke Hogan is pissed off at ODB for not defending the knockout tag titles, how in the blue hell does she get into a match like this? Why is she getting a chance to win a shot at the singles title when she already has a championship that she has not defended in 5 months, which we've already learned management is upset about? Why is she being rewarded when she's supposed to be getting punished?
I will not participate in this charade this evening.
And the booking here was a joke too. ODB was in control the entire match, so the match sucked. I don't think Tara got in any offense at all. ODB beats her from pillar to post, and then she turns into a coward for some reason and fakes a knee injury to get the cheap pin. Why the hell are you booking Tara like this when as recently as last week you were pushing her as an angry bully type? Wouldn't it make more sense to book her strongly since she's in your women's title match at Bound for Glory? Why not just have her kick ODB's ass? ODB's not doing anything anyway. How does booking Tara like shit make anyone want to see her fight Tessmacher again?
I'm done! I am done with you! I'm done with this entire show!
Samoa Joe and Ken Anderson fought for the TV title. I wasn't really into the match, I thought it was kind of sloppy, but Joe winning was definitely the right decision. And it was really cool to see Joe become a Grand Slam champion. That's a career milestone for him, and something you'd think would be a really big deal. But you wouldn't know it by how bored Mike Tenay sounded. Going by his reaction, there was nothing special about this at all. It took something that should have felt important and made it seem like just another match. Also, this would have been the perfect time for Magnus to come out and attack Joe, but he never showed up. There's still unresolved issues between them, we saw that earlier, so why wasn't it followed up on? Hell, Bound for Glory is in 2 weeks, and the build-up for this has been so downplayed that right now I have no idea if those guys are going to have a match at the pay-per-view or not.
Fail! You fail! How do you screw this up?
The high point of wrestling for the night was the main event, Aries and Hardy versus Rude and Bully Ray. And there was an interesting segment between Rude and Aries before the match, with Rude stroking Aries' ego a little bit and trying to fan the flames between him and Hardy. That was a nice touch. The match was really good, and I thought the booking was perfect. There's a cool story here where you've got Aries still jealous of Hardy and trying to prove that he's as good or better than Hardy, so he refuses to tag Jeff in, basically beats both heels by himself, and then Jeff gets the blind tag and steals the pin from him. So Aries looks like $1 million, but Hardy wins the match, pissing him off. There's a real issue between these guys now, which is what this matchup needed. That's great. I wouldn't say the show was great, though. Parts of it were good, but this Aces and Eights thing has really gone off the rail now. That storyline is going downhill fast. There's all this attention still being devoted to it, and for what? A tag match with Sting and someone else versus 2 guys in masks with a stipulation that is essentially meaningless. That's so lame. We should be about to hit the big climax of this thing, but it seems like all we're getting is continuation without really feeling like it's going anywhere. And if Bischoff is revealed to be the guy behind all this, that would be almost as huge an anticlimax as Jeff Jarrett. And while I'm on that subject, I have something I want to say. The last few weeks, with this one accusing me of being the leader of the Aces and Eights, have been difficult, frustrating. But even though I was having a hard time, ultimately I could handle it because I knew that at the end of the day, my subscribers knew the truth and they had my back. That my viewers could sift through all this bullshit and see that I'm a good person and there couldn't possibly be any truth to this. But lately, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Lately, I've been seeing more and more people starting to think that Fourth Dimension Fool Killer might actually be telling the truth. And hearing it from my Twitter followers was bad enough, but now even some of my YWC cohorts are being sucked in by this pack of lies. I think British Fist were considering it a few weeks ago, and Smokey from Off the Rope Show flat out said he thought it was me, and I thought me and Smokey were cool. And not that it's any of your business, Smokey, but the reason my videos go up so late is because I work on the weekends. So that's how it's gonna be now, huh? Everyone's abandoning me. Well, I'll tell you this. Even if no one around here trusts me anymore, I still know the truth. But you know what? A part of me wishes I was the leader of the Aces and Eights because it would serve you people right. You see a little circumstantial evidence, and you all start turning on me just like that. Haven't I earned the benefit of the doubt by now? Kiss my ass! You guys are nothing but a bunch of turncoats! And if you think that I'm that much of a monster, that I could be the leader of the Aces and Eights, if that's what you really believe about me after everything I've done for you people, then you can all go straight to hell! He's digging his own grave.